Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, we're going to be breaking down Live Nashville 2024. We are going to take a look at the golf course itself and then take a look at the DFS board and the betting board and tell you who we like at this inaugural Live Golf Tournament. And I got to say, it's decent planning on Liv's part because, the guys that they have that did play in the U.S. Open last week, Nashville is only about like a 6-7 hour drive from Pinehurst. So if anybody wanted to make the trip via car as opposed to having to fly, they can just hop on I-40, drive 6 hours. And it's not that unreasonable of a drive. So, bravo on Live for decent planning of a tournament schedule. Now, if you are joining us for the first time, I hope you will come stick around. We're going to be continuing to cover Live Golf throughout the rest of the summer. So go ahead and subscribe if you want to be here for the rest of that. Or you can check out all of our PGA Tour, college football, and college basketball content. We're going to be covering Live Golf pretty much through the summer because I am a high school teacher. I have a lot more time in the summer, and as well as, before college football and NFL come back, it gives me a lot more time to focus on golf as well. So we're going to be pretty much continuing to cover every Live tournament as the summer goes on. So anyway, if you go ahead and hit that subscribe button on YouTube as well as subscribe to the audio feed, I would greatly appreciate it. And you can be with us here for the rest of the summer as we try to pick out winners for all these Live Golf events. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and end the introduction there. Let's go ahead and dive into the Grove. All right, so the Grove Golf Course is located just south of Nashville, Tennessee. It's actually like suburban Nashville. Like, this is not close to downtown Nashville. College Grove is technically the town that this golf course is in. And I gotta say, being somebody who's been to Nashville before, I went to Nashville back in 2018 when Texas was playing in the NCAA tournament there. And that is a city that does not really care what sporting events are going on. It's still going to be Nashville. Like, there's still going to be a lot of country music performances. There's still going to be a lot of bachelorette parties that are taking place, or my favorite, the party buses they're driving around downtown Nashville. So I don't know how warmly this city is going to, receive a major golf tournament. But I do think that this one is far enough from downtown Nashville that, it doesn't really, feel like it's taking place, in the heart of Nashville, if that makes sense. So anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the course specs. So this is normally a par 72 for members, but it's going to play as a par 71 on Live this week. One of the par 5s, which made into a long par 4, plays about 7,300 yards, which is not a particularly long course. It's not a super short course either. There's also not a whole lot of information about this course. If you go on YouTube, there is flyovers for each of the 18 holes. It's really difficult to navigate, though. They're not in one playlist, so I didn't want to try to show those to all you guys here. And then a guy named Zach Radford did vlog around playing at the Grove. So if you want to get a better picture, those are two places you could look. But I'm looking here at Golf Digest because they did rate the Grove as one of their highest rated golf courses in the state of Tennessee. And really, this golf course, it's all out in front of you. The fairways are quite wide. There are very minimal hazards off the tee. Water is in play a decent bit, but there's not a lot of heavy bunkering. There's not a lot of undulation. There's just not a lot of craziness out there. And really, everything is out there in front of you. What you see is what you get. Nothing super tricky. Totally the opposite of what we've seen at Pinehurst, right? If any difficulty is going to come from this course, it's going to be on the greens. The greens themselves are quite small. They are quite narrow. Most of them are very long and narrow shaped, either angled or just straight back. But they're not huge targets to hit at, and there's a decent amount of undulation in these greens. So really this week, if you're going to be hitting a lot of greens, whoever can hit the most greens and can convert the most birdie putts is going to have a chance to win this week. I know I can be decently critical of some of the golf courses on the PGA Tour. This does not seem like a golf course suited to host a major golf tour, in my opinion. It's very simple, very straightforward. I don't know why they picked this course. Actually, I know exactly why they picked this course. More on that in a second. But to me, I put it in the realm of Detroit Golf Club, TPC Twin Cities, just not great venues for professional golf. I'm not a fan of Torrey Pines, if I'm being honest. But just not really a whole lot interesting architecture, not a whole lot of interesting, memorable holes. Just everything's out there in front of you. It's going to be well away with driver. Try to hit the green and stick it close, and then try to make your birdie putts. Now, I did allude to the fact that I know exactly why LIV is having this event here. It's because Greg Norman is the architect, and this is actually situated in a community. It's like a private country club. So this is kind of a good showcase for that club. Like I feel like there's going to be a lot of homes that are visible on the TV coverage, and some of which might be for sale. There's a certain possibility there. But anyway, Greg Norman is the architect. You got to feel like that plays a big part as to why LIV did choose to go host this event here at the Grove Golf Course. Now, we do have a little bit of data when it comes to historical performances at the Grove. The Grove previously hosted the Simmons Bank Open on the Korn Ferry Tour. They've been playing that event for a few years there. When you look at the results, like what you get is a lot of guys who are great ball strikers tended to play well here, right? Like Grayson Murray won this event last year. Chris Gotterup, Ben Coles in the top 5. Norman Zhang, who's, had a cup of coffee on the PGA Tour, really long driver. The golf ball finished 11th. Sam Stevens finished 12th. Like those are really the main names that you may know from their times on the PGA Tour that played this event last year. But it really seems like ball striking is going to be the name of the game this week. Get it out there far with your first club, with your driver. You're going to be able to swing driver on most holes, and then try to hit the green on approach. And if you hit your green, try to make the birdie putt. Like that's going to be the story of the game. Like this is not something super complicated to look at this week. Now, in terms of looking for comp courses, I do think there are a few you can look at. TPC Southwind, located in Memphis, is the closest geographical course to this one that is played on the PGA Tour. And there's a lot of data from that course because pretty much every LIV guy that was on the PGA Tour ended up playing at this event when it was, the host of the FedEx St. Jude Championship. But what I like about it as a comp is it's another course that's pretty straightforward, not a lot of dog legs, not a lot of hazards, and it's the same exact agronomy. It features zoysia grass fairways and Bermuda grass greens, which is what you're going to see this week. And there are some LIV guys that have quite a bit of history at TPC Southwind. Dustin Johnson has a host of good finishes. He ranks 4th overall on the course in terms of total strokes gained. And then you have Abraham Ancer had a win here in 2021. Louis Oosthuizen has great history here. Brooks Koepka won the event in 2019. So you do have a decent amount. Phil Mickelson actually has pretty good history here as well as John Rahm. So you do have a decent amount of guys on LIV Tour who played there and played well there that you can go off of if you're looking to pick this week. In terms of other comp courses, I think TPC San Antonio is a pretty good one. Just because it is a Greg Norman design, and it also plays to a pretty similar length. It's also another pretty straightforward golf course. I would personally say that TPC San Antonio is a little bit more difficult than this one, if I had to guess, not knowing what the score of LIV Nashville is going to end up being. The best players at TPC San Antonio, Dustin Johnson and Cam Smith, played there once and played there very well. After that, Mito Pereira had a good finish in his only appearance at TPC San Antonio, T13. And then in terms of other LIV guys, Brooks Koepka played there a few times, played quite well. I think that's pretty much about it for the LIV guys. Richard Bland played there once. Yeah, that's about it for TPC San Antonio. The last comp course that I'm going to make is TPC Twin Cities, a course that, hosted the 3M Open. Is quite wide off the tee with water as its only hazard, is quite easy. It does feature bent grass greens, so slightly different agronomy, but in terms of the features, I think that it's pretty similar to this one. And you look at the guys that have played well here, it's a lot of LIV guys, and it's a lot of guys that you would expect to play well here this week at the Grove. Bryson DeChambeau was T2 in his only appearance at that event. Same with Louis Oosthuizen. Carlos Ortiz had a top 5 in his one appearance at the 3M Open. Mito Pereira was 6th in his one appearance at the 3M Open. And then Matthew Wolff won the inaugural 3M Open in 2019, finished 12th and 39th in his other 2 appearances. So pretty much like you see with my 3 comp courses, they're all TPC courses, right? Like they're all very cookie cutter, very predictable designs, which is what I think you're going to see here this week at the Grove. So that's enough about the golf course itself. Let's take a look at the board and see if we can identify some good plays in terms of betting and DFS here at LIV Nashville. All right, now as we look at the board, I do think that there is a very natural rest versus rust debate in play this week when it comes to LIV Nashville. And the reason why is because some of the top golfers on the LIV Tour did play in the U.S. Open last week. Some of them did not. And so the question becomes, hey, is somebody going to be better off because they played in that tournament at Pinehurst? Are they going to come in with better form? Are they going to come in more of a rhythm? Or, are the guys that took a week off going to be out of form? and algorithm. And I don't really know if that's something that I think you can take too much into account, but I do think that that is something to consider this week, is how somebody performed last week, or did they even perform last week, right? So the top of the betting board, as well as the top of the board on DraftKings, is Bryson DeChambeau. And I got to say, if there were ever a week to fade Bryson DeChambeau, this would be it, because the guy is going on a whirlwind media tour as winner of the U.S. Open, and well deserved, right? Like he deserves to do that. Good for you, Bryson. But like, it's a really tough pick to me to bet him as the favorite to win this event, coming off of everything that he's doing with the media, coming off of, the mental exhaustion of playing in that tournament for all 4 rounds and having to execute down the stretch to win. Like, I just think it's a really tough ask to ask him to play well in this event. Now, the counter argument is that the course is a great fit for him. It's going to be driver heavy. It's going to be something where distance is going to give him an advantage. He's played well at the comp courses. Like he checks off a ton of boxes, aside from the fact that this has been an absolute crazy week for Bryson. So I think I'm going to be largely fading Bryson in DFS this week. I'm certainly not going to be betting him to win. Ironically, believe it or not, he has not finished better than 6th place since March on LIV. Like, it's kind of crazy. His last 3 LIV events, he's finished no better than 18th. So like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't really know what to make of Bryson in these LIV events. He might be like the new Brooks, where he just cares about winning majors, because he's played certainly well in those majors. So I don't really know what to make of Bryson. Like I said, he's largely going to be a fade, but I think if I'm playing a 20 max DFS or something like that, I'm probably going to take a few shots at it. Jon Rahm is another guy that I think I'm going to be largely fading this week. The reason why is he withdrew from the U.S. Open last week. So, like, I don't understand why you would withdraw from the U.S. Open and then play this event, right? Like, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I don't see him being 100%. I don't see him giving it his all. If he couldn't give his all to play the U.S. Open last week, why would we expect him to give his all to play this week? So Jon Rahm is largely going to be a fade for me this week, which means that if I'm going to bet any favorites at the top of the board, it's going to be Joaquin Niemann. He's arguably been the MVP for LIV this season, winning twice on LIV, as well as winning a DP World Tour event in the offseason. And he hasn't been poor at the major championships, hasn't been great either. But when you think about what Joaquin Niemann does, he's a great driver of the golf ball who is pretty long and pretty accurate off the tee, so he's going to give himself a big advantage. And the approaches aren't going to be with a lot of long irons. They're going to be, middle and short irons into greens, which I think is more so Joaquin Niemann's jam, right? When you look at his performance at Singapore, T7, I don't think that's super notable, aside from the fact that LIV Singapore featured Zoysia grass fairways, which is what you're going to see this week. So he's clearly comfortable hitting iron shots into Zoysia grass fairways. We know he's a great driver of the golf ball. So Joaquin Niemann, definitely a guy that, if you were asking me to pick one of the favorites off the top of the board, he would probably be that guy. My second nominee would be Brooks Koepka. Reason why? He won at LIV Singapore with those Zoysia grass fairways. He was electric on the final round at LIV Houston, and he has been great at TPC Southwind, my best comp course in his career. So, like, he checks off a ton of boxes. The question with Brooks is, in between the ears, is how is he going to respond from what could only be described as a somewhat disappointing T26 at the U.S. Open? Is he going to come in locked in, ready to win a LIV event, or is he going to be just mailing it in, trying to get ready for the Open Championship? You never really know with Brooks, and so, like, largely, he's a guy that I'm going to be willing to take a chance on in DFS, but I don't think I'm going to be betting him to win the tournament. I do think that Tyrrell Hatton makes for a really solid play in DFS and a really solid pick to win. He was really solid with his irons at the U.S. Open. He kind of just had a bad Sunday, or else he could have actually cashed like a top 10 or a top 20. But I do think that, he's kind of been knocking on the door on LIV 8th, 4th, and 5th in 3 of the last 5 LIV events. So, like, he's knocking on the door. He's going to eventually break through for his first LIV title. I do think that Tyrrell Hatton's a pretty solid play this week. Taylor Gooch is one of the guys who took last week off let me rephrase. How can I say this tactfully? Taylor Gooch did not make an attempt to qualify for the U.S. Open via qualifying, so he did not play in the U.S. Open last week. Now, a lot of guys that are of a certain mindset would use this event as an opportunity to show that they should have been in the U.S. Open automatically, or show that they, are one of the top golfers in the world. Taylor Gooch has not really backed up any of that this season on LIV. He just hasn't, right? Now, in terms of his fit for the course, I do think he's a solid fit for the course because he is a really solid short to mid iron player. But I don't know, man. Like he's another one near the top where like you're really asking to play a little bit of a psychology game. Like, is he going to show out and prove this week, or is he in his own head? Is he being affected by all the talk about him? Like, I don't know. So really, of that top five, I think the most secure bet is Joaquin Niemann here at this tournament. Now, there's a reason I cut it off at 5, and that's because I really like Sergio Garcia this week. Really like Sergio Garcia this week. He led the field at Live Houston in greens and regulation. He was great in the ball striking categories at the U.S. Open en route to a T12 finish. Sergio Garcia is playing like vintage Sergio Garcia golf, and I think that this course is a pretty good fit for him because it's not going to try to overpower him with distance. It's not going to box him out. Like, everything's going to be right there out in front of him, and he is pretty good at navigating difficult green complexes. So I do think that this is a really good spot for Sergio. If you were asking me to pick anybody in the next little tier, it would be Sergio Garcia. Now, Cam Smith and Dustin Johnson are going to be two big-time fades, in my opinion. We like Cam Smith at courses where short game is going to matter. And you can make the argument that if there is a high green and regulation percentage this week, that, it can come down to who makes the most putts, and he is one of the best putters on planet Earth. I get that, but I'm just not seeing it. He does have the T2 at Live Golf Singapore. He does have a good record at TPC Southwind. I don't know. I think he's largely going to be a fade for me, but like with Bryson, if I'm making a 20 max, I'm going to take a few shots at it. Dustin Johnson, I think, has just totally mailed it in, right? And so, again, I'm trying to play psychologist here, and which is not exactly the best thing to do when you're trying to bet a golf tournament or make a DFS lineup for a golf tournament. But, he just really hasn't had his best stuff since he's gone to Live. And it showed up at major championships. It showed up on Live. I think Dustin Johnson is one of those guys that when he was presented with the option to do less work, did less work. And it's showing in his results that he's not preparing the way he used to. He's not getting as much reps as he used to. And he's not as good as he used to be. And I'm going to continue fading Dustin Johnson on both Live and at the majors until he shows me otherwise. All right, so that does it for the top of the board. Let's go ahead and take a quick little breather, and then let's take a look and see if we can find some guys further down the board. So after Dustin Johnson on the DraftKings board, I really do like the next 4 guys. Patrick Reed is just playing some good golf here in the calendar year 2024. At his last 2 Live events, T14 and T3, has made the cut at both majors that he's played. And I think that he's another guy kind of like Cam Smith that he can get supremely hot with the putter. And I just think that that's not a bad spot for P. Reed to be in. And I definitely am willing to play him in DFS. I certainly wish he was a little bit cheaper. Probably not betting him to win the tournament outright, though. Dean Burmeister is a guy who is one of the better drivers of the golf ball and Live, probably right behind the likes of Bryson, Matt Wolff, Joaquin Niemann. He's right up there with them. You think about the last time that Live played a super driver-heavy layout, it was Miami, and he won that tournament. Now, granted, that course was much longer than this one. I think it'll play a little bit more difficult than this one. But a guy who's going to have driver in his hand when that's his best weapon, you got to like Dean a little bit more at a course like this. And then Abraham Ancer had a ton of success at my comp courses. He was 10th at Live Singapore, which is kind of the best Live comp course with the Zoysia grass fairways, in my opinion, similar length as well. So I do think that Abraham Ancer is a solid choice. He's just really a guy that can get super dialed in with his irons and give himself a lot easier birdie putts than everyone else. And then Louis Oosthuizen has been knocking on the door for a while now. He withdrew from Live Houston with a back injury, so there's a little bit of a question mark there. But if he's 100% healthy, this course makes 100% sense for him, right? He was great at the comp courses when we looked at him. He's been great on Live this season. He won on the DP World Tour in the offseason. He's playing generally great golf. We just need to know whether or not he's 100% healthy. And that's really the only concern. If you told me right now that he was 100% healthy, was not going to withdraw, then I would tell you that he's going to be a guy who's going to be in a lot of my DFS lineups. Now, another guy that I like a lot this week is David Puig. I do believe that is the correct pronunciation. Watching the U.S. Open, that was how they pronounced it. It wasn't Puig like Yasiel Puig of Los Angeles Dodgers fame. They said Puge. I'm going to call him Puge until told otherwise. Now, he came in third at the last live event, which was a really good sign for the youngster. And then at the U.S. Open, he put up 2 great rounds on Friday and Saturday, bookended by 2 very poor rounds on Thursday and Sunday. But this guy clearly has some upside, right? Like, if he just strings together 2 more elite level rounds like he did at Pinehurst, then he certainly has a chance to win this event. And really, watching him at the U.S. Open, I watched a ton of the U.S. Open, y'all. He was the only guy that was like multiple times in a round, like stuck the ball to like 2 feet for birdie. Like he had a knack for doing that at Pinehurst. And if he does it here this week, he's going to be in really good shape. I also really like Thomas Pieters this week on a course that is going to be super ball striking dependent. This is a guy who is trending upward in the ball striking categories. He played really well the last start he had on the DP World Tour, T2. And he's another good driver of the golf ball, good iron player. So he's going to give himself plenty of looks, plenty of opportunities to win this tournament. I think this is a pretty good spot for Thomas Pieters, but I think this is a really good spot for Matt Wolff. We used the 3M Open TPC Twin Cities as one of my comp courses, and he was great there. He won the inaugural event, beating Bryson down the stretch, right? And you look at the last time Liv had a driver-heavy tournament, Liv Miami, he came in 3rd place. This is going to be a course where Wolff is just going to be able to whale away with driver. He's going to have a short iron to probably even a wedge into these greens, and he's going to have plenty of opportunities to score. And so I think this is a great spot for Matt Wolff. It's a course where he can just turn his brain off. Everything's out there right in front of him. And I think that that's a great spot for him. And I think $7,900 on DraftKings is a very reasonable price. And I think that he's a very reasonable bet to win the tournament. Looking at the odds board on DraftKings Sportsbook, he is 35-1 to win this golf tournament. I also think that David Puge at plus 4,000, 40-1, or Thomas Pieters at 51. I think those guys are pretty solid bets. Also, I would not be surprised if the winner is one of that 3 that we just talked about. Now, from there, you're really just looking for guys who drive the ball a long way, hit a lot of greens. And Jason Kokrak kind of fits that description. The only concern is just how up and down he's been on Liv this season. You know, he has 2 top 6 finishes, but also 2 below 40th. That's not good. So to me, that makes him more of a DFS play as opposed to like a bet to win or anything like that. But, you know, if he does have a good week, then this, you know, he can certainly pay off that price tag at $7,500. He's got the talent to do so. If you believe that course experience matters at all, then Mito Pereira should be one of your guys. He has played this event on the Korn Ferry Tour, played decently well, did not win it or anything. I believe he was like fringe top 10 in that one time that he played it. So not a bad look there. And then Caleb Surratt played his college golf at Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. So he has certainly a lot of experience playing golf in the area. If you think that local knowledge plays a factor at all, Pereira and Surratt should be your 2 guys in DFS. Charles Schwartzel, I think, is not a bad look either. You look at the last 3 Liv tournaments, he's got a 3rd, a 35th, and an 18th. If you're playing DFS at a salary of $7,100, you would be totally content with another 18th place finish. So I don't think that he is a bad look. Martin Keimer is also playing some pretty good golf very quietly. Made the cut at the last 2 majors, T9 at Liv Houston, T19 at Liv Singapore, and he's only $6,900 on DraftKings. I don't think he possesses the upside to win this golf tournament, but I do think that he possesses the ability to be played in DFS formats. Graham McDowell is another one that kind of sneaky playing good golf. He's got 3 top 10s on Liv this year. So he's another guy that I'm going to take stabs at on DFS. Not going to bet him to win. I do not think he possesses the upside to win, but he's one of the shorter hitters on Liv. But really, you know, I've talked about a lot of long hitters here so far, but like this course isn't long enough that the short hitters are going to be boxed out and can't play well because they don't hit it long. Hitting it long is going to be an advantage, but hitting it short is not going to be a disadvantage at the same time. So I think that Graham McDowell, at a course where it's all going to be in front of him, he's a pretty good iron player historically. I do think that this could be a course where he plays well at. And then the other guy that I'm going to take a shot at is Bubba Watson at 6,500. So he's been an abject disaster on Liv this year, but like, you know, kind of paralleling it to the course that the PGA Tour is at this week. He had 3 wins at the Travelers Championship. And what do we know about the Travelers Championship? It's a place where you can go driver wedge on most holes if you're talented with the driver. And guess what? I think he's going to be able to do a lot this week at Liv Nashville. Go driver and then wedge in because he's long enough to only have a wedge in. So he's, I think, worth a look at 6,500. I do not think he's worth betting to win the golf tournament, but at $6,500 on DraftKings, I think he's definitely worth giving a shot in some of your lineups. All right, so that does it for the board, and that does it for the preview of Live Nashville. If you want to know who makes my official DFS core, head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Mike's Money Picks. What you get is you get a full article for every Live tournament, every PGA tournament, every alternate PGA tournament, where I profile my DFS core, as well as a full article as to why and how they make my core and what I expect ownership is going to look like, how I expect the course to play, and all that stuff. You get that for all three of those every single week that there is one. So if you want access to those, patreon.com/Mike's Money Picks. You'll also get access to our college football and NFL DFS cores once that gets back in season, as well as all of our draft tools for college and NFL fantasy football that are available on the Patreon as well. So that pretty much does it for this week, y'all. I'm really looking forward to see how this tournament plays out. Like I said, I don't think that this is the super most intriguing or engaging golf course, but I'm not like a scorecard snob. I'm not going to sit here and like thumb my nose at a golf tournament that finishes at -20 and say that that's not good golf. I just want to see guys make great golf shots. And really, that was my thing with Valhalla, was like, hey, like this course looks great on TV. It allowed the greats to play great. Why are we nitpicking that all those putts are for birdie as opposed to for par? So anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing how this tournament plays out. Definitely something I'm going to be watching as the weekend goes on, and hoping that, by watching this, that you guys have plenty of information to go out there and pick some winners for betting in DFS for Live Nashville this week. So if you like what you saw, please hit the like button on YouTube. Please subscribe so that we can be with us for the rest of the season. And if you're listening on audio, please rate and review the podcast. It helps me out a ton when you guys do that. I cannot stress that enough, and I really appreciate it when you guys do that. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Like I said, hopefully I gave you guys plenty of information to help you guys pick some winners this week. Best of luck to you if you are betting or playing DFS on Live Nashville, as well as the Travelers Championship. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this point, and I will see you guys next time.